Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the City of Healing, where the city resides within. This is your sister, Sanette and Angela. I hope that everyone is having a beautiful morning so far. Wanted to come forth and just do a brief share, a book review. And I've read this book, not read the book, but I got the Audible on this maybe a week ago. And I've been listening to it intermittently and just finished it, like late last night, or probably early this morning. And I wanted to talk about it because it's something that I've been saying from the beginning of this channel, is that, the city, our healing mechanism, resides within. And I know it's kind of hard to understand that concept at times because we depend and rely so heavily on modern day medicine, vaccines, different cures, different medicines. And at some point, I do understand that it is very helpful because that's all we know and that's all we understand and that's all that's helped us so far. Stem cells have been here literally since the beginning of time. And we may ask, one of my animals is out, we may ask, what are stem cells? Well, stem cells are basically what we were brought into this world as, a stem cell. And basically it's very regenerative. If it's new and no damage, it can help, make other cells as well. So that's the basis in what, a stem cell is basically. But this book that I listened to last night is called, it's called The Stem Cell Cure, Remake Your Body and Mind. And basically it's like 6 hours. Like I said, I listened to it intermittently throughout the week. And it was a good listen too. I could have also bought the book, but I didn't, And another book that I will also recommend, but it's not Audible, it's another book. It's called The Science of Stem Cells. And this book is written by Jonathan W. Black. And that's a really hard to get book. And it's kind of pricey as well. I think it's like $95 or something like that. So I haven't really strived to get that as much. But back to talking about the review of this book, is basically 15 chapters, and initially it talks about what a stem cell is, which I just basically gave you a brief definition of what a stem cell is what we are. And as we age, as we experience life, our stem cells are damaged, or they are decreased, they are inflamed, and they cannot operate in our machine or help our machine work as well because it's been damaged. So, I wanted to talk about this, as I said before, because I've said it all this time, that the city resides within. We are basically rejuvenating and healing ourselves constantly. And chapter 1 basically describes that for us. And chapter 2 talks about understanding disease, injury, and aging, which I just basically talked about aging a little bit. Our cells are damaged as we age. Disease is basically that, dis and ease. Diseases aren't necessarily life sentences. They are symptoms that something is going on within the body that's damaged our cells. Things like aging, as I mentioned, smoking, alcohol, stress, sugar. Those are things that damage our stem cells, which are the basis of our foundation of how we can heal ourselves and rejuvenate ourselves and regenerate ourselves. Chapter 3, how stem cells work. I just basically described that in a nutshell as well. Even though it's more complicated than that, making it simple is what I like to do and how I understand things. But this chapter goes into depth as to what a stem cell is. And it talks about the pathophysiology of it, the science of it. But we already, like I just said it's foundation of what a stem cell is. It's the stem. Chapter 4, sources and types of stem cells. One is our own. You know, we, for example, if we have a disease of the liver, perhaps the disease is now of the whole liver. You take the cells from the good part and put it, into the bad part. That's our own cells, how we use our own cells. And the other way is from other sources, like embryonic, placenta, animals, or other people. And there's risk with this, of course, just like any transplant. There's infection, rejection, tumors, and other diseases, because you're taking it from another source that has its own path, life force, and life energy in it that you're putting into another body to heal as well. So that's just a basis of that. Chapter 7, stem cells and sports injury. This seems like where it's used mostly, and it talked about a lot of case studies of where they've tried it and it helped some, whereas medicine, steroids, and pain medicine, as we know, are not fixes. They are like icings on the cake that really do anything. Unfortunately, modern medicine, and I'm in medicine, I'm not critiquing it, saying I'm better than. It's just, put icing on it. Doesn't address the real issue of what's going on. Basically, there's inflammation, there's disease, there's things going on that, the body is not able to replicate and generate cells so it can heal itself. So that's just the basis of that. Stem cells in your sex life. A lot of ED is going on nowadays, and there are several reasons for that, of course. One being stress, one being environment, the foods that we eat, the certain minerals and vitamins that we're not getting into our body, just to name a few. There's been some case studies that they have actually used from foreign stem cells to help boost, erectile dysfunction, as well as for females that have painful, irregular, painful sex, and experience pain, in their ovary areas or their pelvic floor during sex. Replacing those cells have, shown in these case studies that's been some helpful. Now, all cases, of course, are not created alike, and there's not necessarily saying that, it's going to work, the same way for everybody. In some cases, and more than not, they did not. But, it's helpful and hopeful to know that it has shown some promise to help with these particular issues. Chapter 9, stem cells in your heart and lungs. There's been some research also with using stem cells in the heart as well. Not many, but it's been more effective than, they say, probably a heart cath, because you do a heart cath and then 5-7 years later you have to do another one, because it actually didn't address the problem, because it comes back. There's damaged cells in the heart that need to be replenished somehow, and you can't do that. With the lungs, it's a little bit more difficult to actually replace these cells. They've tried to do IV replacement, but the cells are usually damaged before they even get to the lungs, so that's a concern as well. So just addressing the basics of that. Chapter 10, stem cells and autoimmune conditions, diabetes, kidneys failure, and lupus, which are autoimmune disease. And basically, these cells are attacking the body itself. There are very minimal healthy cells that the body has. So replacing that with some healthy cells that you have or foreign, and in some issues, what they have done, they have actually gone in and gotten harvested some healthy cells and took it to the lab, and actually in the lab rejuvenated or multiplied cells so that they are healthy, so that they can replace those damaged cells. so that they can regenerate and rejuvenate in the body to help the autoimmune process. Not of good, positive sources of that, but it's hopeful that, with more research and trials that, it can be successful. And we're hoping that, stem cells, is the wave of the future of people realizing that the way to heal is to preserve your cells. And some ways to do that is basically what this book talked a lot about, is staying hydrated so that your body could release the toxins, so it can flush, so your body can flow. Just to name a few. Also, they mention a lot not cranberry, even though that's good, but pomegranate, which is also a great antioxidant and a great sort of like a blood thinner and help the body flow. So that's one thing that they really talked about also, and eliminating sugar as much as possible. Also alcohol, also cigarettes and illicit drugs. Those are things that, and stress, that damage cells. So staying happy, exercising, staying active helps your cells and your body to rejuvenate, especially your stem cells. Stem cells in the FDA is not approved. It's not really approved yet. So we're not using it on people, so to speak. But, my mind is saying something else, not saying that the FDA is approving it or anything, but I'm almost sure that it's taking place where it's being researched and trialed and used to see what it can do, more than I think we realize anyway. But again, it's not approved. So that's what I have to say. And there's been a couple of patient journeys that they talked about in this book with their experience with stem cells. And they saying it's going to be probably a healthy process, not healthy, but an expensive process because it's new. And, people have to donate their own stem cells into labs, or they have to get it from other sources. So it's going to be pretty healthy penny. Also, realizing that, a lot of people don't really believe in it. They want to stay with modern medicine because that's what they know. And again, I say modern medicine, and I'm not critiquing because I am in medicine, it does not cure anything. It just puts a blanket on it. You don't really get to the root cause. And the root cause is damage to cells. So how do we do that? Prevention, as to what I said, and helping rejuvenate our own stem cells. Let's see, what else? And that's basically the gist of the book without making this video too long. I just basically reviewed it. It's a good book. It's very intriguing, something to think about. Conversation we should continue to talk about, and hopefully, instead of depending on medicine, which some of us do need the medicine. I'm not critiquing that. And vaccines, I'm not critiquing that. But I've had my medical or health problems too, that I thought, medicine was the cure or the helpful thing that I need to rejuvenate my body. But what I found, was especially, with asthma, that asthma is an inflammatory process, and that could be through, your environment, your diet, your exercise, the foods you consume, and another very important one, and I mentioned in other videos, is your oral health, which is a major cause of autoimmune disease, especially of the lungs. So that's something to really, really think about. Anyway, I won't go on and on, even though this is a good topic to talk about. I don't have too many people to talk to things like this about. So I do my videos, thought-provoking, something that I can look back I don't really like looking at myself that much, but I can come back and look at later. And I'll continue to come forth and do more book reviews. I'm going to get another book, perhaps, this week, and do a review on it next week. Anyway, thanks for visiting the city, and I hope that you'll enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I have one more thing I want to do a video on today, and that'll be it. Take care.